Bassirou Diomaye Faye was sworn in as Senegal's president earlier this week, becoming Africa's youngest elected leader, less than 3 weeks after he was released from prison to run in last month's election. Earlier, I was joined in the studio by Africa analyst Tam Zano for some insight on the man behind the title. Tam Zano, always a pleasure having you in the channel's Business Global studio, but particularly on this topic, because I don't know any commentator of African descent in the UK that can dissect what's happened in Senegal, because we're all, I would say, pretty pleased. He, of course, has become Africa's youngest leader, but a relative unknown. So if you can, please talk to me about Bassirou Diomaye Faye. And is it fair to say that he is a relative unknown?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me, Juliana. It's always a pleasure to come and share, analysis about Africa, especially as it relates to business and how that impacts a lot of areas and our people. Diomaye is known to people who voted for him locally. He might not be well known internationally because the focus before was on Usman Sanko.
That's right.
So these are two young men, because Sanko is only about 4 or 5 years older. So they were working, they went to similar schools in Senegal based on a French education system. The national school, they became tax inspectors.
Yes.
So that's where they met. And then when Sanko was forming the political party that was banned recently, Diomaye then went in, Bassirou they call him, but Diomaye then became part of that, and then they left the tax inspection together. So he's like a young brother in the movement that they've been focusing on. So, which is why even the posters that you had when he was released and then was put on the ballot, it was saying Diomaye is Sanko. And so they were just selling that as a package to say to anybody.
It's paid off.
It has paid off, but I think it is an indication to the international community and France and those that were on the Macky Sall, former President Macky Sall's government, that Sanko was going to win. Because now almost everyone in Senegal understands that Diomaye is there as a placeholder, and the policies, what they have known about Usman Sanko is what they expect to be delivered by Diomaye Faye when he's the president.
That's some interesting analysis there, because we know that usually when there is, I don't want to describe it as godfatherism, but when there is a kind of sweet deal signed before you win, everyone's on board until you win. A la, Tony Blair, Gordon Brown. There are so many other rivalries we can think of where you make the agreement and it doesn't...
The Gambia.
Exactly, it doesn't go to plan. I think some of our viewers may be surprised to hear that Senegal is one of the world's fastest growing economies, driven by sectors such as agriculture, manufacturing, services and energy. Yet, as we always hear when it comes to Africa, unemployment is high, cost of living is high. Do you think Diomaye or Sanko can turn these statistics around?
You know what? I think ECOWAS needs to come up with different indices. Getting the World Bank, the IMF, the European banks and all these, Finch, the rating agencies, to say what the economy is and what it is doing and the numbers and the GDPs might not relate to the villager in Senegal.
Oh, of course.
So the bulk of the youths in Senegal want jobs. Those that are in jobs that don't pay them enough. A lot of people are leaving Senegal, going to Europe, dangerous routes. When you talk about those boats going to the Canaries.
A lot of them full of Senegalese.
So what life is for the average person, it is a struggle. The numbers might be different. It might be international companies that are actually manufacturing and then just taking everything out. So what made Sanko and Diomaye win was the aspiration in West Africa that the West African youth in particular must be in charge of their own resources.
Really fascinating listening to you. Too short, but we have to bring you back on to discuss more of Diomaye's tenure. Tam Zano, Africa analyst, thank you so much for your insights.